Good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, they're all gentlemen today. Um, I'm very privileged to have a distinguished set of people around me on the screen. I think combined they represent a couple of centuries of wisdom among them. So we are going to have a very interesting session ahead. I will try to speak as little as possible. Our chairman, Mr. Rakesh Kumar, normally would have been here to welcome you all formally, but he's stuck at a meeting in the ministry. There he's wearing his second cap. He's the Director General of EPCH. EPCH is the Export Promotion Council for Handicrafts. So he is doing a video conference with the people in the ministry. He has excused himself for a little while, but in his place, Mr. Nirmal Khandelwal, whom all of you know very well, I won't have to introduce him. He will welcome you all formally. Mr. Khandelwal, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of IHE 2020 and Expo Mart Greater Noida, I welcome you all on this webinar. Our renowned panelists, friends of IHE 2020, members of the audience who are all here on this forum from different cities in India and countries from world over. You must be wondering how come I'm here to welcome all of you. As Mr. Bhattacharya just told you, the chairman of IHE, Mr. Rakesh Kumar, is not here, and he has asked me to take this responsibility to welcome everyone. Mr. Kumar is busy right now with Mr. Honorable Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Mr. Prahlad Venkatesh Joshi, with a group of ministers who have been designated to further grow the exports of this country. We are fortunate enough to have with us today 6 leaders who for decades have professional experience behind them, and they have spent most of their valuable time and years in leadership positioning of some of the best known Indian and international hotel chains. Mr. Kachru, Mr. Anil Bhandari have seen the Indian hospitality sector come of age and have contributed their might at each stage of the growth. Their words not only carry the heft of experience, but also the wealth of wisdom. Believe me, we need both experience and wisdom to guide the hospitality industry and people like us who depend on it for our business to run. Through this worst crisis, we need answers to questions for our survival that comfort us. We need hope, we need common sense, and not fear. And who better to turn to but our esteemed panelists today. They are Mr. K.B. Kachru, Chairman, Emeritus Principal Advisor, South Asia Radisson Hotel Group. Mr. Anil Bhandari, Chairman, AB Smart Concepts, whose tenure as Chairman and Managing Director of Indian Tourism Development Corporation is still remembered fondly by those in the industry. Mr. Dilip Puri, founder and CEO of Indian School of Hospitality and the former Managing Director and Regional Vice President of Starwood Hotels and Resorts, South Asia. Mr. Diwan is still not in, I believe.
No, he's not, but he'll be coming online soon.
No problem. Mr. Ratan Keshwani, Deputy Managing Director, Lemon Tree Hotels and Director, Carnation Hotels. Mr. Arindam Kumar, Vice President Operation, Fortune Park Hotel. Thank you, panelists, for joining us. In the next 1 hour, they would grapple with some difficult questions, which seems to many of us as having no definite answer as of today. I would like to share some with you just to give you an early taste of the flavor of discussion to follow. 1, how will the hospitality sector win back the trust of the customer and get people to start coming back to the hotels and restaurants? I mean, even I'm scared. What are the training and implementation challenges in introducing the new health and hygiene norms being laid down by the international chains and the FSSAI and the central and the state governments? When will hotels get back to regular occupancy? This is a big question. And ADR levels. Among hotels, which segment will bounce back first? The luxury or the upper scale segment, or the upper scale, mid scale, or budget and economy segment? Next will be, what will be the kind of revenue management strategies that hotels would have to adopt during the months of recovery? What will happen to people and jobs and new entrants into the hospitality industry? How will the fallout of the pandemic impact the choice of hospitality as career? What will be your advice to investors and developers caught in the current crisis? Do you believe the pandemic will cast a short or a long-term shadow on hotel development and valuations? And this one concerns me and my business. What design changes would developers of under construction or future hotels have to undertake to be able to cut development cost? Are rooms and public spaces in hotels going to be smaller than before? These questions seem like quite a handful of questions. However, there will be very many different questions which will be coming across during the session. As Mr. Bhattacharya already told you, that we have all the knowledge sessions are available on YouTube and Facebook. I am happy to tell you, I'm very pleased to tell you that in this webinar, we have more than 1,000 plus registrations, in which 35 CEOs, 100 general managers, 160 directors and same level people, and 37 chefs are already in. And we have a foreign participation from 10 different countries, including UAE, Singapore, Thailand, Oman, Myanmar, Nepal, Bahrain, Maldives, and USA. To keep our tradition and of encouraging the spirit of free and fair flow of new ideas, now I invite our moderator, Mr. Suresh Bhattacharya, to take the charge and get the experts talking. I assure you, Mr. Rakesh Kumar is going to join us soon as he is through with the meeting with the minister. Over to Mr. Suresh.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Khandelwal, and thank you for all the panelists to be here. I just see Mr. Diwan coming on screen, Mr. Diwan from Kolkata, just in time. Mr. Diwan, can you come closer to the computer and also unmute yourself?
So
okay.
Mr. Diwan, I welcome you to this webinar.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now I can
Vijay is getting himself on a drone. He's got a drone on his ceiling. Let him program the drone first. Hi, Vijay.
I hope you got it now.
Yep. A little closer would help, you know.
More closer, okay.
Yeah, we want to see your smiling face. You know?
Great.
Okay, I'll keep adjusting as we keep moving.
Wow, okay, good. Being a Bengali, I can't resist making this remark that people from Calcutta are maybe the last, but they are not the least. You know? So welcome, Mr. Diwan.
We had some technical issues.
Technical issues, yeah, I know. I'm sorry, you know, but we have to live with, in this virtual world, we have to live with technical problems. Okay, so shall we start? I'll begin the discussion with Mr. Kachru. He's the senior most among us, and he brings decades of experience with him. Mr. Kachru, the first question, what are the ground realities that you perceive them, as you perceive them? And do you think that how soon will hotels or the hospitality sector be able to win back customer confidence and get people back into the portals.
Thanks, Suresh, and thanks, Nirmaji, for a good brief. And I must first of all congratulate IHE, for keeping everybody motivated and driving people in the learnings and issues like this. I think congratulations. First of all, I think what Mr. Bhandari a little while back said, we should be ready for the new normal. And, namaste is the right word to start rather than good morning. Suresh, I think we have to first understand what are the real ground realities. I think before one can talk about way forward. I heard in the brief which you all stated, how will the industry take it and what are the impediments and how should we deal with it. But I think we have to realize one thing, that none actually has a clear picture. And because nobody had planned this and nobody knew what's going to happen, what will happen. I'm reminded of, the old usage of words BC and AC. I think now the new would be before Corona and after Corona. I mean, imagine we are predicting a loss of over 10 lakh crores in revenue in our industry. I mean, take to various verticals of our industry, how brutal it is. I think we have to be prepared to understand the real brutal realism and how the market is shrinking. Job losses. I was reading the other day, close to about 34 million people have filed for unemployment in US. But look at us, just in the white collar segment, we've already lost 17 million jobs. This is the reality. As we would say in Hindi, I don't know how many of us are going to like this, but actually the scene is dukaan band hai. Actually, that is where we are today, and recovery is really steep. We need to redefine ourselves. I'm giving you an overview. We have a lot of wisdom here amongst our panelists. I'm sure each one will share, what needs to be done. But by redefining, a simple example is that we have to get away from hugs and handshakes to accepting social distancing. I think that's going to be the new norm. And we, all of us, we as leaders who are driving the industry, we have to really be focused on confidence building. And we have to define what are the key measures, whether they apply to the guests or they apply to the staff. And believe me, hygiene and safety is going to be absolutely paramount. Hospitality and safety, along with support, technology support specifically, will be the new norm. Unless technology supports, I can assure you it's really going to be very, very difficult. We need to speak about retraining. We need to speak about retooling and have to break traditions. I think if I have to be asked, what's your overall view? I think we also need at the same time to look at new opportunities, because every adversity, Dilip was just now indicating how in education things are moving. I was giving him an example. 5 years back, if somebody did a correspondence or a past course, he was looked down upon. But today, numbers will be 3-folds, 4-folds, because there would be opportunities available to learn things. in the same manner, we have to look for new revenue streams. We have to start facility management, whether it's concierge management, whether we have to do home deliveries, whether we have to focus on small weddings or extended stays. All these things are going to be very, very material now. And maybe, Suresh, we need to focus more on OPEX than CAPEX at the moment. I mean, a lot of my industry people may not agree fully at this stage, but I think we have such a cash flow situation amongst us, our owners. You know, we are, I'm talking about ourselves. We are a franchising company, a management company. We operate that way. And we have, just in our group, I have close to 300 owners to deal with. We have to feel their pain. And unless we feel their pain, our own survival will not be there. Our survival will depend on how soon we adapt ourselves. This is, I mean, overarching thing I would like to say to open up this discussion.
I think, Mr. Kachru, you really set the tone for the discussion, you know. And Mr. Keswani, I'll come to you, and if you could please unmute yourself. The question is, Mr. Kachru just talked about, you know, the focus has to be on OPEX, given the cash flow issues that have arisen, serious cash flow issues. Now, given all that, we have these high sanitary and hygiene expectations, which involve a lot of expenditure. It's not going to be easy, you know. For instance, you know, even a little thing like plastic, like rubber gloves. Now you're expected to change. Each housekeeper is expected to change gloves after each room. I mean, which never used to happen before, I think, you know. So this, I mean, even small things like this to major things like, you know, having sanitizer tunnels and other such things. What do you think, is the industry prepared for it? How trained is the industry for it? What needs to be done to implement these new health and hygiene requirements?
So what I'd say is, I think all of us need to look at multiple guidelines. I hear you on the FSSI bit, but if you go back into detail a little bit, is tweakable, reducible, when you start to apply a bit of logic to it. The second thing is, does it have to be done? Whether you follow it 10 on 10 or, you know, 9.5 on 10 is secondary. It has to be done. So when you reopen your hotels, you've got to be able to get your smaller inventories into play for as much of the facilities that you will open in stages as you go along. So it's not just a dramatic OPEX every day that's going to hit you. You'll have to make it as variable as possible based on the locations that you open. Now, if this expense is necessary and it's unavoidable, then exactly as what Mr. Kachru said, you've got to question your earlier OPEX model and try and find where you did not find waste or possibilities of reduction earlier because you excuse yourself out of it as part of the standard that somebody believed. You need to make your own brand standards all over again. And maybe in some of the waste that have crept in is where you will find the opportunity of balancing your books. So we at Lemon Tree are aggressively working towards that. So whether your menu is going to be as big as it was, you will come to buffets at some point in time, but do they have to be as big as they were earlier? Do they looking different? And therefore, where can you find opportunity? You have to find it. Right. You know, as much as you want to segment and build up a kind of a forecast and work a revenue play, it'll have to be very carefully handled because whoever's working on the ground still has to adhere to that standard.
Right.
And if you slip up, the problem is if you slip up, you could very quickly lose customer confidence.
Right.
Actually, you know, unfortunately, hospitality gets looked at for everybody to comment on, and we must follow best practices. And we all have opinions on what best practices should be in however they've understood them. So the quick thing that we have to do is that we've got to get it 100% right 100% of the time.
Right.
Yeah, it will be challenging, but I think you need to find opportunities of saving in payroll, in certain other wasted expenses, in how you used to lay out some pieces, your HLPs, and what you can do with it. The entire business model of every hotel needs to be looked at with a fine-tooth comb.
Right.
But there is
So,
no way of getting out of it. So that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, the new normal is that health and hygiene are number one.
Correct.
So, say, if, a quick supplementary, is the Lemon Tree appointing a group-wide health and hygiene officer?
No, I think we've kind of decided that between our head of housekeeping, our head of our corporate chef, will be the two lead players for it.
Okay.
We've worked out our modules. We've sent out our standard operating procedures, divided into 3 segments: back of the house, food and beverage, and rooms division. And then we expect the general manager to really be the hospitality and the hygiene custodian for his or her hotel. Because that's you're going to take, be the face with the customer to convince them that you're doing the right thing, as well as take the total responsibility. Business isn't going to be too high.
Right.
So let them first set the thing so that they become more a habit rather than something that you go to police. Once you get into a habit, it'll be easy to follow. But
that's right.
Ownership.
That's right. Yeah. Now, Mr. Diwan, please unmute yourself. Yeah. Mr. Diwan, good morning again. How long do you think will hotels take to get back to their old ADR and occupancy levels? What is the view from your side of the world, and do you think there is ground for, so far we have heard a little bit of negativity, but a lot of optimism as well, So what are the grounds for optimism at your end?
So firstly, since you asked as to where this business is going to be during this year, I think revenues are definitely going to go down by roughly about 50%. But business is, there is optimism. Let me tell you from where I come. I was reading a CNN travel report. In the week ending May the 2nd in the United States, actually occupancies are starting to come back. They're already at 28%. They are definitely, as the report said, they are 58% down. But occupancy at 28% in this kind of an atmosphere, I would say is very good. So that gives us hope that things are, as soon as we open, probably a month or 2 months down the road, things should come back. So that's the positive. So things should come back.
Right.
But if we are to look back, look on an all India basis, on an yearly basis, I think occupancies or revenues will definitely decline by about 50%. And of course, within this space is the opportunity. Because a lot of businesses, I also feel a lot of restaurant businesses are not going to probably, or some of the hotels are also not going to come back because of various maybe debt-related issues. So that will sort of give us a huge opportunity in terms of acquisitions or in terms of growing faster, both on the restaurant side of the business as well as on the hotel side of the business. Because before COVID, a lot of the industry was actually quite high on the debt side. And this is not going to be very easy to service during the course of the year. So many of these businesses are, I feel they're not going to come back. And in that is the opportunity to actually create both basically inorganic growth. Organic growth will definitely happen probably next year, but there is an opportunity to create definitely inorganic growth this year. Provided you have a strong balance sheet, it should be possible.
Do you see also an opportunity in the fact that the supply line will be sort of choked for some time? Because people may not be rushing into the business.
No, so there would be a lot of brownfield projects because there again there will be an opportunity to acquire them. So the
Right.
supply side, yes, is going to slow down, but
Right.
again on that side as well, in terms of brownfield projects as well, there would be significant opportunity.
Right.
Yes, the industry losses are going to be definitely there in the hotel sector as well as in the restaurant sector. But yes, there is going to be opportunity definitely on the food delivery side, which is a 48,000 crore business at the moment. And it is likely to grow definitely at a pace of 20%, if not more, because in US, it was always growing at 25% on a CAGR basis. So on the food delivery side, there would be definitely a lot of opportunity.
Right.
To get onto the other side, hygiene, of course, is going to be not only a normal, it will be considered as a given. But as we go towards normalcy, I think the key is going to be how to keep the customers engaged during this period when they start traveling. What is it the hotels are going to do? So we have decided that we are going to do a couple of things very differently. That is, of course, we have to first embrace technology. So check-ins are going to be basically paperless. And in the in-room entertainment is going to be really stepped up. As far as the park hotels were concerned, we always use entertainment in our hotels to actually create customer experience. Now, obviously, this entertainment was in the bars and in the nightclubs. So now the challenge which the team has taken upon itself is how to bring in this experience into the room. So we are going to do live streaming of our DJs or of our bands into the room, so as to make the room experience, which is definitely going to be paperless, but it is going to be more exciting and more entertaining for customers.
That's
We are
interesting.
working on, and I think it's already there. And as soon as we open, we should be able to offer better entertainment within the room and directly coming from the bars from the nightclubs into the rooms. So from the room itself, you should be able to make your music request. To tell you something else, how we were doing music differently, we also have, in the evenings, we used to have EDM music, that is the electronic dance music, in the lobby itself. So when you're checking in, you are actually basically checking into a very different atmosphere. So that is going to be still maintained. So differentiation is going to be maintained as you check in, and it's also going to be significantly maintained as entertainment in the rooms as well.
Okay, that's interesting. This idea of live streaming music into the rooms is amazing. You know, very good. I wish you all the best with that. Mr. Puri, you have, I think yours is a recession-proof industry because every crisis throws up more than a handful of opportunities for you. Of course, I'm seeing that you are loving your new role as educator, but what will be the contours, how will the contours of education change, in the new normals, especially with the requirements from the industry going up? Also, in the previous couple of webinars, there are a lot of hospitality students who asked us that, do we have a future in hospitality? What do you have to say to them?
Right. Thanks, Harish. And hello, everybody. If you go back to just 3 years ago when demonetization happened, one of the biggest social habits which changed in India was the acceptability of using digital currency rather than cash. I would never have dreamt of paying my caddy by Paytm after a golf game, or paying my cab driver with, you always paid with currency. So that social habit changed. Fast forwarded to today, and what is this lockdown teaching us? It's forced almost everybody to start consuming more online, whether it is entertainment, whether it's education, learning, other products. And this is not just students, all of us are in one form or the other becoming more accepting, more embracing of online learning. So when you think of the new normal and speaking about our sector, I think this belief, as KB said in his early remarks, that a few years ago we looked down upon ये क्या online course किया या ये क्या correspondence से किया, whereas today and going forward, I think that's going to become really something which will become a force of habit for Indians to consume knowledge. Am I dragging?
Yeah, I think now you're back to normal.
Okay, so I was just talking about the habit of consuming online learning, which is going to be a new normal and which will actually have a significant impact on the hospitality industry as well. What you're going to see is models of blended learning. Even the universities, the UGC, the government is talking about allowing full-time MBA programs, postgraduate programs, and soon undergrad programs, which you could blend. Now, imagine the impact this can have positively because, again, as a lot of panelists said, social distancing. So in classrooms, you could be able to bring in only half the students for 3 days of the week. The other 3 days, they're doing a full-time college, but from home because they already got used to it. And the other 3 days, you bring the other half. So you're able to maintain your student numbers and all the norms required. So education is going to see a big shift towards this. And I think there's a significant benefit, not just for the hotel industry, but for all industries to encourage that. The second thing which is going to happen is upskilling. Just today, we've been very reluctant to spend on upskilling our managers as they're rising. We often promote people into even general manager positions just by the career trajectory they've had rather than by the skills they may have acquired for the changing world. And this is even pre-COVID. So today, there is a real opportunity to encourage our employees to upskill themselves. Many of you would be laying off employees, furloughing employees, reduced hours. This is the time to encourage them, perhaps invest in them. We're launching several programs now to cater to this unexpected demand of people looking for upskilling courses. We would offer them income sharing agreements. For example, you don't have to pay for the course now. You pay for it when times are okay and you get your job, and then you start paying back. But at least they're not wasting this time which they have when either they're out of jobs or they really see the opportunity to upskill themselves. I think with the hotels, what's going to happen is that more and more of online learning is going to be encouraged. Today, beautiful online learning is available. You look at the eCornell programs, you look at so many of these education marketplaces, but we've never had a belief in those truly adding value. I think that's going to significantly change as well.
And do you think you'll be developing customized programs for hotels? Will you see that happening a lot?
Indeed, we were already developing those programs even pre-COVID in terms of when I said how we promote people in our industry without upskilling them. So a typical line manager from operations really doesn't know much about digital marketing or organizational behavior or finance and is promoted upwards. He's not going to work in those departments, but I think there's an opportunity now to do online upskilling courses to get yourself equipped with all these changes happening. The second question you asked was on students and what are they thinking about. I think students who are in college or entering college now are the best placed because they will use this time for education because even graduates today are unlikely to find jobs. You're all laying off people and you want to take them back first. So the opportunities for entering the industry are going to be limited. We have a huge success for a new postgraduate program we're launching, which is for graduates. It's a bridging program for employment. So they spend and invest this 1 year in upskilling themselves so that when the industry recovers and needs people back, these people would be coming into the industry with newer skills, which will cater to the new normal of what the industry is going to see. For example, we've stopped the internships. Our students were to go for internships in July. We've swapped the semesters. They will not go out because it's not right for them to go out. I don't think hotels would want untrained people there as they're recovering. And so we will spend that time back in college with them and really try and prepare students, working professionals, all kinds of people across all our industries, travel, tourism, hospitality, F&B, culinary arts, into finding ways to upskill themselves so that they're ready when the recovery happens and the new normals are in place.
That's right. Great. I must take a quick break and welcome Mr. Rakesh Kumar, the chairman of the India Expo Mart Limited, which organizes IHE. Welcome, Mr. Kumar. Could you unmute yourself, please?
Thank you very much, Farish. My apologies for joining late.
But
please continue. Please continue. I'll come later.
We still have a lot of discussion to do. Mr. Bhandari, now I will ask you one question that not many people are always prepared to talk about. Namely, what should be the revenue management strategies in this environment? Where obviously the next 6 months are going to see, a severe drop in people coming in.
First of all, thank you. Namaskar to everybody. My dear friends, this namaste should be our new normal. And all of us should do it. It's the most hygienic way of greeting. And I'm sure that through namaste, we can promote India and India tourism a lot. Absolutely. Going forward with your question, it is evident that the turmoil created by coronavirus will take long time to settle down. The challenge before all of us is how quickly and successfully we can adapt and adjust to the new normal. I visualize that the hotel and food and beverage industry post-COVID-19 will change drastically. Henceforth, the three major factors governing the hotel and food and beverage business will be hygiene, sanitation, and social distancing. These are the three major normals which we have to take care of. To maximize revenues and profits, we need to change with the changing time and embrace new technology, as said by other colleagues also. In our hospital industry, we always said that human touch is important. Now we have to come to the new normal of no touch. All gadgets, lifts, doors, room service will be voice activated. They need to be voice activated. Alexa, robots will take care of all the services. Facial recognition technology we need to introduce to check in and check out. Corona ovens have already been made in India, where you can disinfect all your cutlery, crockery, all your knives, as well as if you want your gloves, as you were saying a little while ago, that we need to change our gloves in every room, but you can disinfect them. So new innovations are taking place in the market a lot. Now there is also a Corona oven robot which has come up, which can disinfect the entire room through ultra rays. So you just leave it there and it will clean up. We have to somehow instill confidence in the mind of our guests that our property has the best standards of hygiene, sanitation, and social distancing. And our guests will be safe and healthy in our hotels. Key aspects of revenue management and recovery plan post-COVID-19 in the companies will need to address is availability of cash, the availability of liquidity. That is a major problem. You see, we had debtors, we have creditors. We have to collect money from our debtors and as well as to pay back the creditors and to pay our employees, which is the most difficult task at the moment we are finding, and pay also the government dues. Unfortunately, somehow we need to manage those. We have to have a plan, our liquidity management strategies. We need to maximize revenue opportunities, realign and reducing our costs, managing working capital crisis and deferring capital expenditures. You cannot continue with the capital expenditure as you would have planned earlier. Effective, straight, simple, clear communication strategy to instill guest confidence. Whatever we do, we need to tell our guests so they instill confidence in us. To my mind, to first stop discounting any service like room, food, and beverage, except for the channel manager. I think all the hoteliers should join together and stop discounting. Charge a price. Okay, you can pay our travel agent and tour operators 10% and to our OTAs also 10%. Let's not go beyond that because we cannot afford it. Within our competition set, it is time that we should come to some understanding that we will not be selling below this. If we don't do all that, I'm sure like in the past, most of the hotels have practically run into big, huge losses because we have not worked together with each other. It is obvious that we need to provide excellent quality of services at reasonable price, stop all free services like free pickup from the airports, free breakfast, all these services we have to now relook at, and we may have to stop them. We charge a normal price, but we should develop co-working spaces in the lobby. These are new things which you can do, or in the executive lounge, generating revenues from other sources like outdoor catering in offices and homes, food deliveries, as a little while it was said. Even laundry services you can outsource. You can ask the local community people to come and have their laundries done. Your spa trainers, masseurs, home delivery can also go online and give their courses. Yoga courses could be taught online. Your gym experts also can also go online and teach your people. We need to engage with the staff and team members. Staff is the most important, right? We need to look at how help, what about their welfare, because they are all coming after they have not got their salary. Somebody has to pay their EMIs, some they have to pay their rentals. So it will be very difficult for them to come to the new normal as well as to work hard, right? So it is time that we should also give them some helping hand, give them some money so that they can work much better and much more for us. We need to reduce staff costs. Obviously, we have to do multi-skilling of various tasks. No wastage of any kind. We need to control our HLP costs like other. Gradually, we should open our properties as we see the business grows. Friends, if all these things are taken, and apart from all this, we must pursue the government to give us the relief package, which all the entire faith and other institutions, and we should pursue. I find that we are not pursuing this particular issue in the process that we all make even close down. So my suggestion is more persuasion is required at that particular end, especially in respect of all the state governments where the electricity bills are being charged on the.
Mr. Bhandari, we'll come back to that. Let us quickly move to Arindam, and then we'll open up the discussion where you could take up the point you're just raising. Yeah. Mr. Arindam Kunar, he's not Mr. Kumar, as a lot of people. I think we have also wrongly mentioned you as Mr. Kumar, but he's Mr. Kunar. Now, Arindam, you've heard, you have the benefit of coming in last, but especially because your business is so much in tier 2, tier 3 cities. What are the rules of engagement there? And do you think a lot of these expectations will be can be addressed by hotels or hotel professionals based in these cities? Mr. Kunar, you have to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
And thank you for that question, Sarish. Look, I think there are two ways of looking at it. I think the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, if they have a brand that's associated with the hotel, I think they have a very, very big advantage as compared to the ones which are not branded. And allow me to explain why. I think at the moment there is an overload of information with regards to safety, hygiene, sanitization and stuff like that, and it can actually be overwhelming for hotel owners and hotel operators. And the branded hotels do come in with, as Mr. Kesmani had just mentioned, Fortune Hotels, and I'm presuming all hotel companies are issuing clear brand standards and manuals on how to handle the hygiene aspect and the aspect of sanitization. And not only that, because we have the expertise at the corporate office with regards to a corporate engineer or a corporate housekeeper or a corporate chef, corporate hygiene department, we are able to garner a huge amount of information on new technology, new process, new chemicals, convert that into usable information for our hotels and supply it to the hotels. So I think in terms of tier 2 and tier 3 cities, they are as good as any other large city from a perspective of getting the knowledge and the information if they are part of a brand. I think the other area that both non-branded and branded could work upon in order to get over this overwhelming quantity of information that's flowing in on a daily basis is to work with certification agencies and experts who will guide them The challenge that we are going to face is, in terms of the technology and the cost of the technology or the cost of implementing these new processes. I think there has to be two ways of looking at it. One is a very survival and practical approach. If you don't do it, you will not survive in the business. As everybody is talking about the new norm, service recovery is not going to work if your hygiene standards are not good in the hotels anymore. I think that notion is out. So there is a baseline that is established going forward, which all hotels, whether in tier 2, tier 3, or tier 1, has to establish. The other approach that probably will work is, a ROI-based comparative approach to investments in technology and services. I also feel that there is an opportunity for hotels to step up the gas as far as processes are concerned, as far as people is concerned, which can actually take care of the hygiene and safety aspects of our operating the hotels, rather than focus too much on the technology and the capital intensive investment, so to speak. I would imagine that the FSSI and the other regulatory bodies will also allow us that kind of time. There will be financial funding opportunities that will come in as we progress through this process, because it's not something that one or two hotels or one or two cities will have to deal with. So I think tier 2 and tier 3 cities, if they have a brand, they do have an advantage. But if they don't, I still feel that this should be something that they should be able to cope up with.
Right. I think very useful input. Mr. Keswani, could you unmute yourself? Yeah. Now, again, Mr. Kachru said, the number of developers he has to deal with. Similarly, I think you are also dealing with so many different developers in towns which are till 5 years ago completely out of the at least the organized sector hospitality map. Now, what do you see? What is the gut feeling there, or what are the vibes you're getting from these towns and these developers?
Well, one, hotels that are operating.
Yeah.
Conversations, as Mr. Kachru, we keep speaking to each other as well about how they're going to manage for the next couple of months. I think all of them do feel reasonably confident that some business will start to flow in a couple of months, if not 3. The developers who were working on their projects haven't stepped back. They're hampered by the fact that the lockout has put their development and the finishing up into a bit of a delay, but they are waiting to get the lockdown effectively taken care of so that the labor can come back. They are now challenged by the return of the labor that they were using.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't, none of them have said, look, I'm shelving my product or I'm shelving my project for the moment. Have there been any new interest? I think that's a bit premature.
Right.
The only problem is that the operating hotels that exist right now, a lot of the owners are very highly cash strapped, both because of their leverage as well as the cost that we all know of,
Right.
and the government guidelines and everything else that we have to pay for. Those are the immediate worries they have, but nobody said that they would like to plug out of the business or find alternative usage for what they need to do. That's so far been all the conversation. And I think Mr. Kachru's also had the same discussions with his partners. However, I do believe, as another speaker said, that a lot of supply will not open. None of ours, but I mean, just generally a lot of supply will not open. And if it is not going to open, it gives a optimism towards occupancies to the running hotels to run a little higher than expected. And also maybe not therefore forced to drop rates, because I think we'll have a supply and availability constraint over a period of time if a lot of hotels don't reopen.
Right. Now, which segment do you think will come out of this the fastest? The luxury or the business and the budget and economy, or upper upscale or upscale?
In terms of market segment, I would say
I think your voice is dragging, Mr. Keswani. Tushar, can something be done?
Some internet problem at his end.
Okay. Okay. Well, once he gets back his connection, let me quickly go to Mr. Puri.
Sorry.
Oh,
Can I?
yeah. Okay. I think there's an internet connection problem at your end. Oh, Mr. Kachru, were you trying to say something? Mr. Kachru?
No, I was just
Okay.
the internet was down at one end, the other.
Okay.
The other.
Right. Right. Okay. So, Mr. Mr. Puri, what I wanted to.
I'd like to.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
If Arindam is done, probably some of the points raised by Mr. Bhandari,
yes,
I think are very, very relevant. And
Yeah.
I think, this panel would agree with me, and most of the people who are here today listening to us, I think it's time that we have an actionable process and fix our priorities. Because, generally we can talk about a lot of things. Everybody realizes that hygiene and safety is very important. But what exactly is happening at each place, like Mr. Keswani said, that what they are doing and how they are making their GMs accountable. Companies like Radisson, we have tied up with SGS, which is one of the largest international companies. And we are establishing the new SOPs and processes. Similarly, everybody will have to do their part to give confidence to our guests. And I mean, don't underestimate staff. Staff needs equal confidence to be working there. And adaptability to technology, like I said earlier. I mean, a small thing like Arogya, which is so important at the moment. I don't know. We have to look at possibilities. Can we patch it with PMS? These are some of the things we need to look at. Somebody raised the point of which segments would come first, whether it is leisure or budget or economy. I think I would look at it slightly differently. I feel that the first impact zone, the inner zone, would be drivable distance, where people can safely drive to a destination. If they are in Delhi, for example, Jaipur, Agra, and some of the hills, locations at the hills will attract. There is a pent-up demand. Actually, people want to go out, but they want to feel safe. And we have to address these issues. Having said that, we spoke about some of our, Ratan made it quite evident that our owners, some of our owners have huge cash flow issues. And we have to ensure that, liquidity does not really get pushed to insolvency. I think that is going to be our priority. And on the human side, I think we have to learn how to glue our staff. We actually have to motivate them, make them feel safe. And one last point I would like to make, Mr. Bhandari pointed out the industry is not doing enough. I can assure Mr. Bhandari and all the participants, whether it is HAI, Faith, IATO, DAI, every single organizations, we have met all the decision makers. Personally, even in adverse circumstances, we have met, and we have had a situation when they are sympathetic towards what needs to be done for the industry, but there are certain other issues they need to be sorted out. I think at the moment priorities are saving lives, and focus is there. So we have to respect that. And yes, our industry is under huge stress. We will have to have each of our companies, whether it's a small hotel or a big hotel or a restaurant, they have to establish new norms, new SOPs, whether we do Corona ovens or whether we do Corona robots. But all the processes has to be established. So I mean, I would go for that, make action points for each area, each zone, each city, and then have it fully familiarized.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. Right. So, Mr. Keswani, before the computer problems sort of attacked you, I was asking you the question that which segment of hotels do you think will come out of this crisis the first? And second, I also wanted to know, because you are a new entrant in the luxury sector, what do you think? What does the future hold for the luxury sector? In as someone said, in the AC era, as Mr. Kachru said, the after COVID era.
So let me break up my answer in three parts. One, I think mid-scale, mid-upscale, these are in corporate locations, will probably start to see movement before the upper upscale and luxury begins. Two, I don't expect too much of international inbound. So we'll all have to be dependent largely on every segment being Indian in their origination. Mr. Kachru is right. Close by driving destinations, regardless of their segment, will probably see some inflow very quickly. Wherever there is still pent-up happiness and the objective to be able to spend, people will take that opportunity of drive-in holidays with family, with a few groups of friends where they can take a hotel on their own because anyway they don't expect too much of occupancy. So I think that's how it will get graded in. The fear has to go away. I think the first part is, whether it's the press or all of us or in our own communities, the fear and the confidence is the two pieces that we need to balance very, very quickly. Even if you see in your own condominiums or close by, people are more fearful, but they're not being realistic. I don't mean to, bemoan that fact, but as long as the fear gets reduced, all segments will see some movement. It's the fear of going to the airport and the fear of staying. I think once that starts to go down, business needs to be done. Travel is just something that people are inveterate travelers. And now that you bounce everybody with handcuffs, there will be the between close by locations. And I think economy, mid-scale, mid-upscale will probably, in my opinion, take off first. If the larger metros don't stay in the red zones, then I think they will be the first ones to gain from that movement. Unfortunately, the larger metros are in the containment areas when the other sub-locations are doing better. So the movement will again depend upon where it is safer and it's a greener zone to go to for commercial and for leisure.
Okay. I think
second part to your upscale kind of a thing. For luxury, I think the domestic traveler who had the wherewithal to touch and feel luxury would have probably taken his summer holidays abroad. Will definitely be a market that should be targeted by everybody with luxury.
Right.
And therefore, luxury needs to find the luxurious security, hygiene, comfort zone communication through their brand for people to feel the need to go to one versus the other.
Right.
But there are possibilities. Again, I think it's a lot to do with confidence and of the environment, not much of the lack of desire to do business or to travel.
I think the immediate need, as I can gather from you, is confidence building.
Correct.
I think that, and there should be sort of a unified message now going out that, look, what was to happen has happened, now let us get on with life.
Yeah, and the fact is that it is a new reality.
Right.
Best of care,
Right.
somebody can fall ill.
Right.
Treat it like an illness, not out of an untouchability for the infrastructure that you are in or have gone to. or for the person per se. Right now,
Right.
that is what is creating the biggest challenge, in my
Right.
opinion, in the minds of people.
Right. Right.
Okay, guys, I
Uh,
have to leave on a call,
yeah.
so if I may be excused.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Mr.
much. Have a good
Keswani,
day.
thank you, and good. Please, thanks for all your inputs, Mr. Dilip Puri. Let me come to you because uh, all these requirements that are coming in also mean that your academic program will have to now have a major health and hygiene component. Now, in the IHMs, they have something called they're actually IHMCTN. The N stands for nutrition, which is like forgotten. They have one chapter on nutrition, so will you be getting more of health and hygiene and sanitary requirements into your academic program to prepare your students for the new normal?
I don't think we need to add anything more because they're very important parts of curriculums across hospitality courses even now. The question is to put them into more focus, revise what could potentially be requirements of the industry. But the point is that already you can see the industry is doing so much to prepare themselves for new health and safety standards. It's a bit like a few years ago when the whole issue of prevention of sexual harassment happened. Companies were forced to create committees and they had these posh committees and all of that. That's where we took the opportunity to see that these are things you must embed into programs and courses for students in terms of building their mindsets towards equality or diversity or sustainability. I think now what's going to happen is that the mindset towards the importance of health, safety will be something which we will probably have to focus more on for our students. And interestingly, I'm continuing to think, I mean, your organization is one, but there are hundreds of people who do hotel awards. I think the next awards we're going to see are not going to be based on product quality, service quality. They're going to be seen on saying how healthy and how safe is your hotel.
That's right.
You guys want to be first off the block to say that the new IHE awards are to see which chain, which hotels best exemplify health and safety standards, right? So it'll be a new TripAdvisor ratings will start depending on that, I think, more than anything else.
So, Mr. Rakesh Kumar, we have our work cut out for us.
Certainly great idea, Dilip ji. Certainly great idea. And IHE award should have main importance to this aspect. Not only a single award for that, but also that all the awardees should have some minimum standard to be adopted in their hotel. That should be the also the part of the awards selection.
Yeah,
thank you for
great. Fantastic. Mr. Diwan, I wanted to ask you particularly about the home delivery business. Apart from Hyatt, I think the park went very aggressively onto home delivery. In fact, I think you've started home deliveries in all the cities you're present in. What has been your experience so far, and would you recommend it as an alternative source of revenue to the industry as a whole?
So before I actually answer this question, I would like to add something to what Mr. Kachru and Mr. Bhandari were saying in terms of liquidity. What has happened over the policy in terms of the RBI policy over the last 5 occasions, they have reduced interest rates significantly. But what has happened, of course, is that the banks have not passed on these reductions to the industry. And that the liquidity problem can be sort of really solved if we can get the banks and if we can push to get these interest rates, the banks to pass on these interest rates to the industry. This is one thing I think we have to definitely work together on. Of course, a lot is going on in terms of, whether it is HAI or faith, a lot is getting pushed, but this is one thing I thought is going to be critical, in terms of creating liquidity as we move forward, because interest rates RBI has reduced and it's not being passed on to the industry. There is room for about 2% reduction there for sure. And I'm sure we are all going to benefit for it. We have to really push hard for it in the industry as well as with the banks. On the issue of food deliveries, yes, it's a big opportunity. So first we have to see, of course, somebody to get on top of this, somebody I feel firstly has to sort of lead the business model. Everybody tends to get into this food delivery business. Every hotel, every restaurant is getting into it. But to make success out of it, somebody has to lead this business model. Somebody has to create the model and then deliver on that business model. That's the kind of thing we have put into place. And the objective would be to get at least 5 to 10% of this market share in each of the cities of operation. So that will be the sort of benchmark. At the moment, it is all initial stages. We are trying to see what are the gaps in the market. There is a gap in the market in the competitive segment in terms of competitive price. And of course, there is a gap in the market at the upper end of the market. And of course, there is a gap in terms of the organic segment of the business, where I feel players are just not there to provide an organic alternative to customers. So there is a gap at the upper end of the market, and there is, of course, a gap in the middle segment, as well as I would say it, in the competitive segment. So we are at the moment testing this out, and we are trying to see, where the biggest opportunity is. But yes, the opportunity is there to grab for the hotels, because this is going to be the fastest growing segment as we sort of move forward.
And as you said, it's a 48,000 crore segment. Is that the current estimation, or is it a future projection?
This was, the restaurant business is about, restaurant and bar business in the country is about 4.2 lakh crores.
Right.
And airline business is about 2.2 lakhs crores. That is as per the last statistics.
Right.
And online food delivery system is about 48,000 crores. But it is the fastest growing segment. The restaurant business on CAGR basis was growing at a rate of 10 to 12%. This was always growing at a 15%. And as we move forward in these times, I think this business will certainly grow at about 20%. So this is a big opportunity for hotels as well as for restaurant owners. But you have to get the model right, and somebody has to, within the team, own the model and then deliver on that model. That is going to be the key.
Mr. Kachru, a quick word from you before we go to Mr. Kunar, and then Mr. Bhandari will have the sign-off lines. So we'll come back to you, Mr. Bhandari. So, Mr. Kachru, the point about interest rates, I've not heard much from Faith on this subject, nor from HAI. Are you going to take it up?
Yes, it has already been taken up with all the related agencies, and we have actually written to RBI governor that some of the policy directions which have been given are not being executed at the shop floor level. They have passed on this message, and I think some bureaucratic issues, but it will be sorted out. I don't think that ultimately would be a problem, and it would, I'm sure, help a lot of us. What we as hoteliers have to pursue with the government is we get them to push for cheap funding. Even today, LABOR is just 1+%. And I think because of regulations, we are not able, our partners are not able to access these funds. I think we need to work on such issues. There's a lot of work to be done. I agree, and I can assure you that the industry associations are doing their best to achieve results. And hopefully, once their priorities are over in terms of what they're handling at the moment, we will get a little more attention.
Right, right. Mr. Kunar, quickly, like what you wanted to talk something about the segments which are going to show a comeback. I mean, which are the segments you think are going to come back first and which are going to take some time?
So, thank you. While I agree with the previous panelists and what they've said with regards to the segment of leisure segment and close by destinations happening, I think a word of caution for everybody who's hearing this is that we also need to be very, very careful and conscious that the corporates have already got a taste of running their businesses through technology, so that will have an impact on the travel plans as they go forward. And there's a lot of plan that is happening in terms of work from home and stuff like that. The other is that we need to be very mindful of the source markets. While the hotel, the city where the hotel is located may be open, but your source markets may still not be open. And so what we need to really be watchful about is, are our source markets slowly opening up for them to travel to your destination? And also start looking at mapping transportation options like airlines, are they starting or not? So I think that's the point that I just want to make, that we need to be very mindful and watchful of. And that's why crystal ball glazing in terms of saying, when are we going to open? There's a whole lot of dynamics that we need to be careful about. And every day things are changing. So a team in the hotel will really need to work out, and map these things.
So I guess you'll have to have different strategies for different markets, depending on when they open up and how they open up.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Bhandari, you have 3 minutes to sum up our discussions, and then we'll invite Mr. Rakesh Kumar to give his vote of thanks. Mr. Bhandari, please unmute. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Please.
Yeah. So, I mean, what my suggestion will be that we all agree that sanitation, hygiene, as well as social distancing has to be there, and we all are. Each hotel group is creating their own SOPs. My suggestion would be that let Ministry of Tourism become a nodal agency to create all these SOPs, and which could be made online available, as well as through videos or through the booklets, which then can be circulated to the hotels which are in the tier 2 and tier 3 city or the smaller hotels.
Unbranded hotels especially. Unbranded hotels.
They cannot afford to create, or they cannot be so good. The reason being, if one hotel gets a bad name in India that by so and so incident this has happened, then India gets a bad name. Indian entire hotel industry gets a bad name. So my suggestion will be that good SOPs should be circulated. I mean, your association can also do that. I mean, like the other associations can also chip in and circulate free of cost all these SOPs.
Fantastic. And also, I think there is a need for information on the technologies that are available. One hears about so many technologies, even in the UV space, for instance, ultraviolet space. Every day one is hearing a new technology coming into existence.
Yeah, I mean, this Corona oven, which I've seen myself through the UV rays, is disinfecting. Now it has gone for the approval. Already the approval has taken, and some products are being sold also in the market. The UV ultra robot, which will go through the ultrawaves and can clean the entire room in matter of seconds. That is going to be something great. And a little bit or more new technology like facial recognition technology to check in, where you find that people can check in through re-registering on their Apple app. And the moment they enter the hotel, they just stand in front of a kiosk, they get their key and they go to the room. And open the room, maybe inside, and Alexa and then the robot will take care of the rest of the services. I find recently one of the catering college boys has come out with a small app. The entire menu, if you put his code, OTP, the entire menu of the restaurant comes on your mobile phone. And you can order.
It's my menu, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, my menu. So there's you don't have to give any printed menus, or this will be again which you can attract some decent bacteria.
Right. So I said you'll have the last word, but one quick question to Mr. Puri, because this is something very close to my heart. A couple of students, I guess they're students, they said that, okay, you could do a lot of online classes, but what about aspiring chefs? Where do they, how do they do online classes? Because you need to have the ingredients with you in order to cook.
So it's a challenge when we migrated to online learning. Barring our culinary practical classes, we were able to pretty much transition the rest of the curriculums. But today, you've just been hearing about newer and newer technologies coming up. We will find ways of delivering practical learning to culinary students as well. It's only a matter of time. We're already doing it to the limited extent we can, so that whatever infrastructure students have at home, we make them do practical classes. They create menus, their parents assess them, they photograph, videograph, they send it, it goes on to our learning management system. So there are some early stage developments in delivering practical culinary learning as well. Over time, as better technology comes in, I think you will begin to see more of that. But nobody can take away the fact that the chef needs his knives and needs his kitchen. And that is one of our challenges. May I just make a comment, Satish, on some of the things I was hearing? What I haven't heard discussed is in the owner-operator relationships in a new normal, where is the owner going to be and where's the operator going to be? I already get several calls from both owners as well as operators, re-looking at what was never looked at before from a management contract perspective. Today, did anybody look at clauses like force majeures or indemnities or insurance or working capital needs ever before? It was, we are a very relationship-driven market in terms of, how owners love to see that management contract ko to ek cupboard mein band karke rakh do and it should never be used and all that. But now in the post-COVID scenario, I think there's going to be a big recalibration on that. And I think owners need to be very much smarter than they've been, as do operators as well. And the last point I want to make is on, Mr. Kachru said it right in the beginning, OPEX is more important than CAPEX at this stage. I think the reality is OPEX or CAPEX, you need cash. And I don't think individual developers, even some of the portfolio groups, have enough cash or a runway enough to sustain themselves through the entire crisis, because we're right now talking about just a post-COVID or post-lockdown scenario. Then there's a pre-vaccine scenario, and then there is a normal scenario. So that runway is going to be significantly long, I would say 18 months. How many can survive or not, I don't know. You're already beginning to hear about the big institutional investors. Brookfield announced yesterday they've got billions of cash to buy assets. Starwood, Barry Sternlicht announced it. You have Blackstone announcing it. So I have a feeling that in the post-COVID era, we're going to see some very interesting M&A opportunities happening as well, particularly with those people who don't have the runway or working capital to sustain themselves.
Right. In fact, my son wants to be a lawyer, and I keep telling him that he should be an M&A lawyer. That's where the big bucks are in the future. This whole question brings me, I see a lot of flagging down of VC interest in the sector. Mr. Diwan, do you think funds will be easily forthcoming in the passage, the runway of 12 to 18 months that we are talking about?
See, there is going to be a lot of liquidity is available internationally. If you see the kind of packages which are being announced in the US, and also at the same time, the private equity funds, the sovereign funds, the wealth funds, at the moment are all flushed with money. We have to see that how do we actually bring them in here. I think India needs, money to come in, cash to come in. We have to create business models where they can actually come in. So I think they're just waiting. We have to create the right atmosphere. And of course, first we have to get rid of the virus before anybody else can get rid of the virus. So we have to try and do that. And of course, liquidity funds are flushed liquidity, and they are
Right.
all looking to invest in India.
That's
And
right.
we have to just grab this opportunity and actually not miss it.
Great. Good, very the right note to end on. Mr. Kumar, please, your last words.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sarishi.
Hmm.
And my apologies for joining late. Esteemed panelists, friends of IHE 2020, and members of the global audience. I usually have the honor of opening the IHE webinars. But today, as Rish must have already informed you, that I had an overlapping video conference in the ministry regarding some export promotion matters, as I wear another hat in the export promotion. Friends, I was, however, fortunate to catch up with the later half of the most interesting and informative discussion today on the two existential questions confronting hoteliers today: the ground reality of the COVID-19 pandemic and the road to recovery. By now, most of us are aware of the grim ground reality. There was definitely a lot of discussion, a lot of out-of-box suggestions have also come since I joined later. But I could see that how the ideas of even the rewarding and also having a kind of a joint ventures among us, the hoteliers, the pricing issues, and the SOPs, everything has come over there at the platform. I'm quite sure that these ideas will be implemented in due course. As everybody is concerned about the SOPs for the hygiene and the standard, and also Bhandari ji especially mentioned that IHE can also take up this. I would like to share with you that we have almost prepared the standard, which are the pathogen safe standard. Not only the COVID, but they are all pathogen, all type of viruses are covered in that. And the esteemed panelists who are present today will be requested later on to be part of the technical committee, because that is going to be the first stakeholder consultation to give their view. Dilip ji, Keswani ji, everybody, all of you, Kunar Saab. So everybody has to give your view so that before we go to the tourism ministry, because these are not SOPs, these are more than that. These are basically standard that to be there for the industry. This is a minimum standard to be adopted by us. I must thank Mr. Nimal Khandelwal-ji, the chairman of the FCML distributors, member of the IHE 2020 advisory board, and the former long-time president of the Hotel MITE, who needs no introduction in the hospitality industry, for standing in on my behalf and setting the ball rolling. Thank you, Nirmal-ji, for performing my duty in the beginning. Our panelists, as was to be expected, lend depth and gravitas to today's discussion. Their positivity, I'm sure, would have rubbed off on all those who are attending the webinar. Most respected Shri KP Kachru ji, Shri Anil Bhandari ji, Shri Dilip Puri ji, Shri Ratan Keswani ji, I think he left a bit early, Shri Vijay Diwan ji, and Shri Anandam Kunar ji accepted our invitations. My special thanks, heartfelt thanks for bringing light and hope to today's discussion. Thanks all the panelists. I must also thank our fair president, Mr. Hari Dadu, who has been the pillar of support for all of us, as well as our legion of the well-wishers, starting with Chef Devendra Kumar ji, President ICF, Chef Manjeet Gill ji, President IFCA, Amarjit Ahuja ji from PPFI. We have Nitin ji, Nitin Nagarale ji, Mrs. Jayashri Ragraj. Then we have Mr. Rajat Pandey ji, Anil Malhotra ji, representing Archies and Hottermai, Rajendra Mittal ji, Mr. Hemant Sood from Triple ID, and Sanjay Anand ji, who is the director of the Hammer publication. I will now bring this session to an end and invite you to get ready for our 10th webinar on Wednesday, May 13, which will highlight the challenges confronting those in the business of providing us a clean and safe nightlife Till then, goodbye. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much for joining with us, and thank you the audience who are from lot many other countries also. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Girish.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.